everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name's Amanda and today we're going to be making raspberry fig jam. I'm so excited. We have quite a bit of figs and I need to start jamming it up.
We have 4 fig trees on our property. I didn't know that we had fig trees when we bought our house, but we started seeing fruit developing on the trees and we were amazed to find out we had fig trees. My daughter and I were really excited about that because we thought it was the neatest thing. And I really didn't know much about figs when we bought the house to begin with. But here is our second one. Here's our third fig tree. And here is our fourth fig tree.
Our fig trees are giving us a lot of figs. I'm so excited. So let's go ahead and can some up. Okay, so for raspberry fig jam, I am using 100 figs. I'm doubling this recipe because I have about maybe 500 figs in my refrigerator between this one and the one in the garage. There's quite a few that I have collected over the past few days. So we are using 100 figs and we're going to be using a family size jello raspberry. It is a 6 ounce that we're going to be using. And we're going to go ahead and start by cutting the figs. And I'm going to show you how I do that. And I'm going to walk you through step by step on how I do this. So let's go ahead and go and get started because I am so excited. And this is my kids' favorite jam that I make.
I believe all 4 of our fig trees are a brown turkey fig. I've definitely looked up by looking at the leaves and by the types of colors that our figs produce. And you're going to start by cutting the stem off. And then you're going to want to cut it in half. Now you don't have to cut the figs in half, but definitely remove the stem. But it is a good idea to check the inside of the figs just in case to make sure that there are no insects like the wasp or worms inside. So I definitely cut mine in half to double check that. Figs are really fascinating. They are an inverted flower and there are different types of fig wasp that pollinate the fig, but by the time you go to eat it, the wasp should be digested by the fig. I am going to cut up 50 first and put in my blender, and then I'll cut the next 50 up because my blender will not hold all 100 at once trying to blend them up, and I want to make it a nice puree kind of blend where there's no chunks. That's how my kids like this one a lot. They like when I make the apple fig jam a little bit thicker, but for the raspberry fig jam, they like it to be nice and smooth. So I try to make it to how my kids like their fig jams, and they really like this one nice and smooth. So I'm splitting it up by cutting 50 first, and then I'll cut the 50 next after I process them. And while cutting them, I am still checking all the insides of each fig.
We are going to blend them up in the blender once we get them all cut up, but I'm going to slowly start adding them in because it would just be a lot to add in all at once by moving it back and forth. But you definitely want to check the insides of your figs to make sure that, they look good, there's nothing wrong with them. So let's keep cutting. And I counted too before I started all this that I did have 100 figs in the bowl.
Our fig trees keep producing more and more each year, and this year they just keep producing so many. Last year I was pregnant and picking figs right up to my due date, and I was exhausted. So normally our figs start to really show around July, and then it starts to get really heavy in the middle of July. I like to get out and pick my figs every day. If I don't keep up with it, the beetles, the bees, the wasps, they get really bad out there, and it is not fun trying to pull a branch down and dodging all those flying around you. So if I can keep up with the figs every day and pick the ones that are soft or bending over, that's how you can tell. Or if they have like little wrinkles in them, then that's when I start to pick them. When they're soft, big, bending off that little branch, you'll definitely know that's when it's time to pick. So that's when I start pulling them. So my variety in different colors because of that factor of how I can tell when it's ready to be picked. Sorry, I should say off the stem. It's bending off the stem instead of the branch. So you'll see that little stem and it's like bent over, because the fig's getting really heavy and it's definitely really ripe. I found a fig that looked questionable On the inside, it was brown and fuzzy. It did not look like the other ones. So I'm just going to discard this one and grab another one from the fridge. It's fine. I have extra. Use your judgment on it.
Okay, so I have cut 50 figs up. We're going to go ahead and blend the first 50 up because I don't think I will get a total of 100 jammed in there and it blend properly. So we're going to go ahead and blend this up. 50 jams with a 1/4 cup of lemon juice.
I meant to say 50 figs, not 50 jams.
And you want to make it like a puree. You can make it chunky if you would like to and then just pulse it, but my kids like it really smooth. So we're going to just go ahead and blend it up till it's nice and smooth. And I did have a fig that looked kind of funky on the inside, so like I said, that's why I like to cut them open to make sure that they look okay. Thankfully I have some more figs, and let me show you how I put them in my fridge. I'll be right back. So I like to put them in Tupperware containers, and then I do paper towel, figs, paper towel, figs, paper towel, and I keep repeating that. But definitely wash them first and then let them dry, and they're good for 5 to 7 days in the refrigerator. Some people do put saran wrap on top. I don't, because it falls off easily in the fridge, and I have not had an issue without the saran wrap on top, but it works well, and I'm able to then slowly can what I want to can and when I can, because I got 3 kids, so it definitely helps out with the process instead of picking right away and canning that day. You can do that, but it's it's easier for me canning when I can. So the figs that I'm using today have been in the fridge for 2 days, and every day I've been picking about 250 figs, so it's quite a lot. And so I try to do how I can process it and get it done, and okay, so I'm getting the rest of the figs in that were for the 50. Forgot I needed to get these in. But yeah, this is 50 figs in here. 100 definitely would not fit in all at once. Let me grab a towel real fast. Okay, so now we need a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. We're going to go ahead and put the lid on, and we're going to blend it nice and smooth.
Here's how nice and smooth I want it to look. I want it to have no more chunks of the figs, extremely smooth. This is how you want it to look, almost like applesauce.
So I am using a fairly large pot to make my jam in. You can use the Dutch oven if you want to as well. I have used the Dutch oven with doubling the recipe with a 4-quart size, and this is the size that I'm using today. So I'm going to go ahead and pour the first 50 figs in with the lemon juice. That way we can start cutting up the rest of the 50 figs and then blend those up as well. Now it's okay that there's still some of the puree in it. It'll be fine because it's all going to go into the pot later. So let's go ahead and finish cutting the rest of the 50 figs. Okay, I have the next 50 figs cut up, and I had one that was bad, so I replaced it with another one. That's why I cut them in half, to make sure that they look okay on the inside. So let's go ahead and add the 1/4 cup of lemon juice to this amount of figs, and then we're going to blend them up. And again, blend to a puree, or if you want it chunky, just pulse it to your liking. Perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and add it to the pot with the other figs. Tastes good. All right, just going to go ahead and pour it in. And then I'll get a spatula to get the rest of the goodness out, because you don't want to miss any of that. It's really good. All right, let me grab a spatula. Hi, buddy. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and add our sugar. So let me grab the stuff for that. Okay, so now that we have all our figs, 100 figs blended up, a 1/2 cup of lemon juice, now we're going to go ahead and add our sugar. And we need 1 1/3 cups of white sugar. Okay, so 1 cup. And you can add more sugar too if you like, if you want it a little bit sweeter, but this is how I like it and how my kids like it. So I try to stick to what they like because, you know, I'm really excited they're eating figs. So that's awesome. My daughter loves eating them right off the tree. So I'm happy about that. 1/3 cup. So 1 1/3 cups of white sugar. Now we're going to go ahead and add our raspberry jello, and it is 6 ounces again. Okay, and before I forget, I need to put a small plate in my freezer so we can do the set test to see how the jam's going to set when we can it. So let me go get a small plate in the freezer real fast. Here's the small plate that we're going to use that I'm going to put in the freezer for our set test. So let me just get that in there real fast. Okay, so now that that's in there, let's go ahead and start getting this going. We're going to put it up to medium heat, and I am going to use my spatula to stir it. And you want to mix in all the sugar and the jello pack so that way it dissolves nicely. You don't want any of that. So that's the main thing right now, is getting that to dissolve. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, here's what it looks like. The other reason why I also like using the spatula is because it's got a flat side, and so when I'm, you know, making sure that nothing is really sticking to the bottom, it really helps. And then I just like to scrape down the sides too. And so we're gonna bring it to, not to like a high boil, but you're gonna see it start popping. So we're at medium right now, and I'm just stirring it.
Once it does get to a really nice bubble, we're going to stir it constantly for 7 minutes, but it should take an overall 30 to 40 minutes for this whole process.
I do not use pectin in this one. I have not used pectin before, so I will have to adventure with that for some other recipes that I've found that I really like. But for right now, we are just mixing this together. My jars are in the dishwasher. They're getting cleaned up as we speak, and they should be finishing up by the time this jam is done. Okay, I gave it a good stir, mixed in all the sugar and the powder from the jello. While I am waiting for this to start warming up, and you will start, when you start seeing bubbles, then you come back and you're going to want to stir it for a while. You want to keep that around 7 minutes with the bubbling, and then we will reduce the heat. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and get water in my big pot so I can do the water bath method. Before I forget to show you, on the bottom of my giant water bath pot, I do have, it's a cake cooling rack, and it has little feet on the bottom, so that way the jars do not sit directly on the bottom of the pot. You don't want that to, you don't want the jars to sit directly on the bottom of the pot because it will break. So let's go ahead and fill this up with water real fast. Bubbling, so now we're going to start the timer for 7 minutes, and we'll want to keep it at this medium for 7 minutes and just keep stirring because you don't want it to burn or stick to the bottom. So I'm going to set my timer for 7 minutes. So the nice thing about using a bigger pot when it's taller on the sides is when it does splat. I mean, it does really splat if you're not paying attention to it with being at the medium, because you will start to see it to bubble. If I stop, it's going to slowly start to bubble. See? There's some bubbles. See, there's some more bubbles. So that's why I like to stir for those 7 minutes once it starts to really bubble. That way nothing sticks to the bottom and it doesn't burn, because you don't want that. You don't want burnt jam. It's not tasty. And I scrape the sides down. And this is going to help thicken it a little bit more.
It's nice, the jello, it actually helps thicken it and adds nice flavor to this. So it's perfect. So you don't have to add pectin to this recipe.
Okay, my timer is about to go off for 7 minutes. And once the timer goes off, then I am going to turn it to low. And I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes. And what you want to do then is stir periodically. So to make sure that, it's not sticking to the bottom, but this will help thicken it up too. And then that way I can start getting my other stuff ready, like the jars, the rings, the lids. But there's my timer. So we're going to turn it to low. Stir it periodically. Set your timer for 20 minutes. Okay, we have a few more minutes until the timer goes off, and definitely just make sure that you do keep stirring it periodically because it still will splat because the pot's hot and you don't want it to stick to the bottom. I have around 3 minutes left, and then we'll do the set test on the plate that's from the freezer. Okay, our 20-minute timer just went off, so I'm going to go get the plate from the freezer. And just take a spoon and we're going to put it on the plate. So now we're going to go ahead and put it back in the freezer, and we're going to set a timer for 2 minutes. Setting the timer for 2 minutes. And we'll be right back to check it. Okay, the 2-minute timer just went off, so now I'm going to check on the plate. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our finger and we're going to run it through. It did not, it is slowly starting to close up, so we're going to give it a good, I'd say a good 10 more minutes. And we're going to still keep it on low and just stir it periodically. And then we'll redo the set test. But it tastes really good. I put the plate back in the freezer so we can recheck it once the 10 minutes up. And again, stir periodically so it does not stick to the bottom of the pot. Okay, my 10-minute timer is almost up. Again, stir periodically. That way nothing burns to the bottom. And we're gonna go ahead and check the set test once that timer goes up. It should go off very shortly. But it smells really good. I'm liking the consistency while I'm stirring it. You can start to feel it get thicker as you stir. Oh, there goes my timer. Okay, let's go ahead and get that plate from the freezer. Okay, I got a new spoon. I'm gonna take a little bit, set it on the plate. Here's how much I'm putting on there. And we're gonna put it in the freezer again for 2 minutes. Okay, so we'll be back in 2 minutes to check on that plate. Okay, my 2-minute timer just went off. I really love the color of this, it's so pretty. All right, so now we're gonna take our finger and run it through. It tastes really good. That looks perfect. See how it's not trying to pull together? It looks perfect. All right, so my jars are done. We're gonna go ahead and start putting the jam in the jars, and we'll start water bathing them. So this is exciting. And it's so tasty, and it's nice that I'm getting more of the stuff done. I've already done a batch of this week because we just keep collecting so many figs every day. All right, so let's go ahead and start putting this in the jars. I'm using a measuring cup so that way I can just scoop it and pour it in. And you want to leave a 1/4 inch headspace. And I like using my smaller jars. These are the 1/2 pints. I love that for jam because it's perfect for using it up within a week once opening them and putting them in the fridge. And just be careful, I am making a mess.
I always wash up extra jars just in case. With this recipe though, for 100 figs, I have been able to get around 8 jars filled. Sometimes I'll have a little extra left over, and then the kids and we finish that up with some toast, and it's so tasty. With how many figs I keep collecting each day, I cannot wait to mix some of the other jams that my kids like. They like when I make the apple fig jam, and I'm actually putting pink lady apples on my grocery list because that's the apples I like to use with them. And I also want to make the brown sugar fig jam as well. It's really tasty, it's easy, it's simple. I have all the ingredients on hand, so that's nice about that one. But I can't wait to start making some of the other jams and trying out some other recipes too that I found that I really liked and want to see how they taste.
Okay, so now we need a 1/4 inch headspace, and we're going to go around and measure.
So when I'm checking this jam's kind of thick because of the jello. And when I do this, like jiggle the jar and kind of set it down, it helps even out the top so I can make sure that I have a 1/4 inch headspace. Also, it helps with the air bubbles on the side. That's the other thing I meant to mention in this. If you have air bubbles on the side of your jars with the jam, you want to just take a knife and put it on the side and then just kind of swoop it around to try to remove that little air bubble. So definitely check your jars for air bubbles.
So each one's really a little bit close to a 1/4 inch headspace. So I'm just going to remove a little from each jar and then we'll be fine. And you know, I know the kids, they'll be happy to have this later on some toast. Also, all this extra in the pot too, I'm gonna scrape that down and save it for the kids to have later on a piece of toast. Here's how much I was able to scrape out of the pot. So let's see if I can fill another jar with this up. Nope, very close, but we'll use this up probably within the next 2 days, so on some toast. Okay, now that I have my jars filled, I have my measuring cup filled with some water. We're gonna put it in the microwave for 3 minutes. That way we can heat up our seals on our lids. Let me go grab the lids and we'll start wiping down the rims to the jar. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn my pot on so my water can start heating up, because it does take a while for the water to heat up, and we'll be right back. Okay, now that my water's ready, I'm gonna go ahead and put my lids in there. Take a paper towel and we're gonna wipe down the tops of the jars because they will get sticky from when you put the jam in. See, you can see all that coming off. We're gonna go back through and just dry them. And just be careful, the jars are hot. You just want to make sure you definitely also, definitely cleaned the rims well, because you don't want any jam on there that could affect the seal when canning. And now 3 minutes has been up for this, so we're going to go ahead and start putting them all on. And when doing this, you just want to do finger tight. This is nice because it's got the little magnet on it. And we're going to set those aside. Okay, my water is still coming to a boil, but look how beautiful this looks. The color is just perfect. These are great for Christmas gifts during Christmas time. I love having fig trees here on our property. It's just awesome, and they make great gifts. So, all right, we're gonna wait until this heats up, and once it heats up, we will start canning them up in the water bath method. I really like this. Don't be afraid of doing the water bath method. It is really easy. You'll love it. So, all right, we'll be back once this is in a boil. So I like to separate my jars. These jars, they're gonna go into the water, and then once they're done being boiled in the water, I like to put them on this towel here and let them sit for 24 hours. That way I know, which ones need to be processed in the hot boiling water and which ones are already done. So once they're done in the hot water, they go to the towel here. Okay, so for the jar that I am not gonna be properly sealing, and I'm just gonna put it in my fridge, I like to save some lids that I have used that, I've heated up the seal and properly canned it in the water bath method. And that way I just use it for one of these. And that way I'm not wasting a lid that has not been sealed, so it's not affecting that wax seal. And now I can just go ahead and put this one in my fridge, and we can use it up this week. So I know my kids are already, eating some that we have already canned, 8 jars already, and the kids are already going through it. So this will go into the fridge for the time being. But the water is still heating up, and we will put the jars in once the water is to a nice boil. Okay, my water is to a nice boil we're gonna go ahead and add the jars to it. And now I have the half-pint jars, and I have a total of 8 of them. So let's hope that they all fit in there at once. And I'm gonna tilt this lid to the side so the water drips into the pot. Bring this to a nice boil. Okay, I have them all in there. Let me show you how it looks. They're all in there, and I have enough water over each jar, which is perfect. That's how you want it to be. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the lid back on. And we're gonna let it come back to a boil, and once it comes back to a boil, we're gonna set the timer for 10 minutes. Leave the lid on. We are now at a good boil, so I'm gonna go ahead and set the timer for 10 minutes. The 10 minutes just went up. We're gonna go ahead and remove the lid and turn the stove off. So the stove is off now, removing the lid. And I'm gonna set the timer for 5 minutes. So by turning the stove off and letting the lid, be off, it's letting the water cool down. So you're not going from hot water to, a normal room temperature setting. This is slowly letting it adjust to the temperature before removing it. So in 5 minutes, we'll remove the jars and we'll let them sit out on the towel for a good 24 hours, and you'll start hearing them pop. Pop, 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 pop. And that's what you want to hear. That is a good sign. And while we're waiting for that 5 minute, I'm going to continue making lunch for everyone. So it's lunchtime here and everyone's hungry, and I'm really excited that this is almost done. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. 5 minute timer is about to go off, and I'm really excited about, being able to make more jam. And I'm really excited because I want to take this raspberry fig jam and actually add it into the vanilla ice cream that I make and make it a raspberry fig ice cream, and then see how that works out, because I love to make ice cream here at the house. Oh, there's my timer. Okay, so let's go ahead and take these out. Well, thank you for watching me can and make raspberry fig jam. I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope you guys try this recipe. It is really good. And again, remember, if you want it to be thicker, just cook it a little bit longer, or pulse your figs to the chunkiness consistency that you would like it to be. My kids love it smooth, and it's easy because you can even eat it almost like applesauce. For a child, and it's really good. So anyways, but thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you. Please subscribe.